At 0347 hours, a Russian submarine commander thought he was about to humiliate the U.S. Navy with technology Moscow called undetectable. What happened in the next 18 minutes became a classified lesson in why you never challenge American sonar operators who've been hunting subs since before you were born. The submarine in question represented the latest generation of Russian underwater warfare technology, designed with advanced noise reduction systems and what Moscow's naval engineers believed was revolutionary stealth capability. For months, Russian Naval Command had been testing these vessels in increasingly bold operations, probing the edges of NATO territorial waters and gathering intelligence on Western response patterns. But here's what the Russian submarine commander didn't know as he maneuvered his vessel through what he assumed were unmonitored waters. American sonar technology had evolved far beyond the Cold War systems his intelligence briefings described. While Russian engineers focused on making their submarines quieter, American naval researchers had been developing detection methods that could identify the subtle magnetic signatures and thermal traces that no amount of sound dampening could eliminate. The U.S. Navy's underwater surveillance network operates on principles that most naval powers still don't fully understand. Advanced hydrophone arrays can detect pressure changes from submarine movement across vast distances, while satellite-linked sonar buoys create an invisible web of detection that covers critical shipping lanes and strategic waterways. At 0352 hours, as the Russian commander prepared to execute what his mission parameters called a demonstration of technological superiority, 3 separate American detection systems had already logged his vessel's position, speed, and probable mission profile. The data was flowing in real time to a response coordination center where American naval officers were calculating intercept courses and deployment options. What happened next would prove that confidence in untested technology against experienced operators rarely ends well for the overconfident party. At 0355 hours, the Russian submarine sonar operator made a critical error that would expose decades of flawed intelligence gathering. He activated what Russian naval doctrine calls active reconnaissance mode, essentially lighting up his surroundings with sonar pings to get a clearer picture of nearby American vessels. In submarine warfare, this is equivalent to turning on a flashlight in a dark room while trying to hide from someone who already knows exactly where you are. The moment those sonar pulses hit the water, American listening posts from Virginia to California registered the acoustic signature. Each ping revealed not just the submarine's precise location, but also detailed information about its sonar equipment, hull composition, and internal machinery vibrations. What the Russian crew thought was gathering intelligence was actually broadcasting a complete technical profile of their most advanced underwater asset. Meanwhile, 3 American attack submarines that had been quietly shadowing the Russian vessel for the past 47 minutes moved into position. These weren't the aging Cold War-era boats that Russian intelligence had prepared their crews to face. Each American submarine carried sensor packages worth more than most countries spend on their entire naval budgets, operated by sonar technicians who trained for years to distinguish between a whale's heartbeat and a submarine's cooling pump from hundreds of miles away. The Russian commander's confidence was about to collide with a fundamental reality of modern naval warfare. In underwater combat, the side that sees first usually wins decisively. And at 0358 hours, American forces were preparing to demonstrate just how completely they had been seeing everything. At 0401 hours, the Russian submarine's hull began experiencing what naval engineers call structural harmonics, microscopic vibrations that occur when a vessel pushes beyond its optimal operational parameters. The commander, realizing his sonar pings had potentially compromised his position, ordered an emergency dive to maximum depth while simultaneously increasing speed to what he believed was an escape vector. This decision triggered the most expensive game of underwater chess in modern naval history. Each American torpedo tube contains ordnance worth approximately the same as a luxury mansion, while the targeting computers processing the engagement cost more than most small cities spend on infrastructure annually. But the real advantage wasn't financial, it was experiential. American submarine crews train in conditions that simulate everything from Arctic ice shelf operations to tropical shallow water engagements. They practice tracking multiple targets while maintaining stealth, coordinating with surface vessels, and executing precision strikes in environments where a single miscalculation means death for everyone aboard. Russian submarine training, despite its technical sophistication, had focused primarily on avoiding detection rather than winning engagements against superior numbers. At 0403 hours, the Russian vessel's emergency dive created a thermal wake visible to American satellite sensors positioned 200 miles above the engagement zone. What the Russian commander intended as an escape maneuver had actually painted a glowing target that every American asset in the region could now track in real time. The next 4 minutes would demonstrate why American naval dominance isn't just about having better technology. It's about knowing how to use overwhelming technological superiority to corner an opponent who suddenly realizes they've entered a fight they cannot possibly win. At 0407 hours, something extraordinary happened that would rewrite Russian naval intelligence assessments for the next decade. The fleeing submarine's hull began emitting a low-frequency acoustic signature that American sonar operators immediately recognized, but not from any training manual. This exact sound pattern had been recorded 18 months earlier during a classified deep ocean test, when American engineers deliberately stressed similar hull materials to identify failure points in Russian submarine construction. The Russian crew had unknowingly pushed their vessel into what metallurgists call critical resonance frequency, a condition where the submarine's own movement creates vibrations that travel through water, like a dinner bell announcing their position to every listening device within a 300-mile radius. What made this moment historically significant wasn't just the tactical advantage it provided, but what it revealed about the depth of American intelligence penetration into Russian submarine manufacturing. American naval intelligence had been tracking the metallurgical composition of Russian submarine hulls through a network of sources that included everything from satellite analysis of shipyard activities to monitoring the purchasing patterns of specialized steel suppliers. When this particular submarine's hull began resonating at precisely the frequency American analysts had predicted, it confirmed that U.S. intelligence knew more about Russian submarine capabilities than Russian submarine commanders did. At 0409 hours, the American task force commander made a decision that would send ripples through Moscow's naval command structure. Instead of immediately demonstrating their overwhelming tactical advantage, American forces began what military strategists call controlled revelation, systematically showing the Russian submarine exactly how completely it had been outmaneuvered, one capability at a time. The psychological impact of this approach would prove more devastating than any torpedo. At 0412 hours, the Russian submarine commander received a message through his emergency communications array that would haunt Moscow's naval strategists for years to come. The transmission wasn't from Russian Naval Command. It was from the American Task Force commander, broadcasting on a frequency that should have been impossible for foreign forces to access. The message was simple. We've been monitoring your vessel since you left port 6 days ago. Surface immediately for inspection, or we will demonstrate why that would be preferable. The psychological warfare implications were staggering. American forces had just revealed they possessed real-time access to Russian military communication networks, could track submarine movements from the moment they departed their home bases, and were confident enough in their tactical superiority to offer surrender terms instead of simply attacking. For a submarine crew trained to believe they were operating the most advanced stealth technology in the world, this message represented a complete collapse of every assumption their mission was built upon. What happened next violated every protocol in Russian submarine warfare doctrine. The sonar operator, now fully aware that stealth was impossible, began desperately cycling through different communication frequencies trying to reach his command structure. Each frequency change was immediately matched by American forces, who began broadcasting detailed technical specifications of the Russian submarine's equipment back to the crew, information that should have been classified at the highest levels of Russian naval intelligence. At 0414 hours, American forces escalated their psychological campaign by transmitting the personal service records of 3 crew members aboard the Russian submarine, including details about their families and home addresses. The message was clear. American intelligence penetration into Russian military systems was so complete that individual submarine crew members had no operational security whatsoever. The Russian commander now faced a choice between certain destruction and international humiliation. Subscribe for more military scenario breakdowns and watch this next. It gets even crazier.